After losing my job, I took a night shift driving to support my pregnant wife. One night, I came home at 4 a.m. to find the nursery light on. She wasn't alone, and the words I heard that stranger say to her made me realize the baby wasn't mine. I, 28M, never thought I'd be the kind of guy writing on Reddit about something like this, but I honestly don't know where else to dump what's been eating at me. It's been 3 weeks since everything blew up, and I still wake up in the middle of the night thinking I imagined it. But I didn't. Every detail is burned into my memory. I guess I'm hoping that writing this down will make it make sense somehow. So for context, I used to work as a project coordinator for a construction company out in Ohio. It wasn't glamorous, but it was stable, and after years of grinding, I was making enough to finally get a house with my wife, Erin, 26F. We met back in college, dated for 4 years, and got married 2 years ago. She's one of those people who lights up every room she's in. Always smiling, the type that remembers every little detail about everyone. She used to leave me these dumb sticky notes on my coffee mug in the mornings. Don't forget your keys, dummy. Or, you're my favorite human. I kept some of them in my desk drawer at work. That's how much I adored her. Then, about 6 months ago, my company downsized. I got called into the office and was told my position was being phased out. I still remember driving home that day, hands shaking on the steering wheel, trying to figure out how to tell Erin, who was about 3 months pregnant at the time. I thought she'd be crushed, but she just hugged me and said, "We'll figure it out. You always do." She even joked that maybe I'd get to finally sleep in. For a few weeks, things were okay. I sent out applications, tried to freelance a bit, but we both knew the bills were stacking up. Mortgage, medical checkups, baby stuff. It was all adding up faster than I could manage. That's when I found the night driving gig. Basically, it was a delivery job, mostly long-haul stuff for a local logistics company. It wasn't great money, but it kept us afloat. The hours were brutal, though. I'd leave around 7 p.m. and sometimes get home at 3 or 4 in the morning. Erin didn't like it, but she said she understood. I told her it was temporary, just until something better came along. We started drifting a bit after that. Not fighting, exactly, but disconnected. She was home all day, setting up the nursery, posting Pinterest ideas, talking about baby names. I was out all night, dead tired by the time I crawled into bed. She'd wake up early, I'd be asleep. We became these two people orbiting around each other, but never really colliding. I told myself it was just the stress, that once the baby came, it'd get better. Then came that night. It was a Thursday. I remember because I'd just finished a 10-hour shift delivering crates to a warehouse on the other side of town. My last stop took longer than expected, and by the time I got back to my car, I could barely keep my eyes open. I stopped at a 24-hour gas station to grab coffee, called Erin to let her know I'd be home soon. No answer. Not unusual. She usually slept like a rock by that time. When I pulled into the driveway, it was about 4:15 a.m. The house was dark except for one thing. The nursery light was on. At first, I thought maybe she'd fallen asleep in there again. She'd been doing that a lot lately, reading those parenting books in the rocking chair until she passed out. I parked quietly, not wanting to wake her. But when I got closer to the window, I noticed movement, 2 shadows. And then I heard something. A man's voice. I froze. It was muffled through the glass, but clear enough that I knew it wasn't the TV or something. Someone was in my house, in the room where my unborn child's crib sat half assembled. I should have gone in right then. Should have barged through that door and demanded answers. But something in me hesitated. Instead, I crept up the steps, as quietly as I could, until I was just outside the door. My heart was pounding so loud I could barely hear. Then I heard her voice. Erin. Soft, shaky, like she was crying. And then his voice again. It's okay. He'll never know. It's better this way. I don't know how long I stood there. It felt like the floor had just dropped out beneath me. Those words, he'll never know, they looped in my head like static. I remember backing away slowly, barely breathing, until I was outside again. I sat in my car for a good 20 minutes, trying to convince myself I'd misunderstood. That maybe it was a friend. Maybe she'd been scared and called someone over. Anything but what it sounded like. But then I saw it, through the blinds. He stepped closer to her, put his hands on her stomach, and she didn't stop him. She let him. That was when the coffee cup I was holding cracked in my hand. Hot liquid spilled all over me, but I didn't even feel it. I just sat there, gripping the wheel, my whole body shaking. I didn't go in. I couldn't. I drove. I don't even remember where I went that night. Just miles of highway, dark and empty. I think I stopped at a rest area around sunrise and slept in the car. The next morning, I texted her saying I had an early shift and wouldn't be home till late. She sent back a heart emoji, like nothing had happened. Like I hadn't just watched her let another man touch the life we were supposed to build together. That was 3 weeks ago. Since then, I've been pretending I don't know. Pretending I'm still that dumb, tired husband trying to keep things together. But every night I leave for work, I feel that same sick churn in my stomach. And every time I come home, I half expect to see that nursery light on again. I'm not sure what's worse, the betrayal or the fact that part of me still wants to believe the baby's mine. But deep down, I already know the truth. I didn't go home the next night. I told Aaron that dispatch had me on an extra route, which wasn't completely a lie. I did pick up an extra shift just to avoid being there. The thought of walking through that door and pretending everything was fine made my stomach twist. Every time I closed my eyes, I heard his voice again. He'll never know. It played on repeat, louder every hour I tried to ignore it. By the second night, I realized I couldn't live in that fog of not knowing. I needed to see it. I needed to stop wondering if I was just being paranoid, if exhaustion had warped what I saw and heard. So I did something I'm not proud of. I set up a camera. We had this small nanny cam Aaron had ordered for the baby's room, still sitting unopened in the closet. I unboxed it and synced it to my phone. I told myself it was just to protect her, to make sure whoever that guy was didn't come back. But I knew the truth. I wanted proof. I wanted to confirm the worst so I could stop torturing myself with maybes. That Friday night, before I left for work, I told her I was starting my shift early and might not be back till morning. She kissed me goodbye, like nothing had changed, and I smiled back, trying to keep my voice steady. The whole time, my heart was slamming in my chest because the camera was sitting there, hidden on the bookshelf in the nursery, red light blinking quietly behind a stack of baby books. The drive that night was brutal. Every mile dragged like an hour. I couldn't focus on the road, just the thought of what might be happening back home. Around midnight, I parked at a rest stop, pulled up the app, and stared at the feed. For the first hour, it was just darkness and silence. I almost turned it off. But then, around 1:30 a.m., I saw a movement. The nursery door opened, and Erin walked in. She was wearing one of my old t-shirts, her hair tied up, holding her phone. She looked anxious, kept checking the door. My stomach dropped when, a few minutes later, a man stepped into the frame. He was tall, maybe my age, wearing a gray hoodie. I recognized him instantly. It was Tyler. Tyler was an old friend of mine. Or at least, that's what I thought. We'd worked together at my old job. He'd been over for cookouts, game nights, even helped me move into this house when Aaron and I bought it. He was the kind of guy who made everyone like him. Funny, charming, confident. I never imagined he'd. I watched him walk up to her, put his hand on her shoulder. She didn't pull away. The audio wasn't perfect, but I could make out pieces of what they said. He told her he missed her. She said, "We can't keep doing this." He laughed and said, "We've been doing this for months, Aaron. You think you can just turn it off now?" That word, months, hit me like a truck. She didn't answer right away. She just sat on the edge of the rocking chair, staring at the floor. Then she said something I'll never forget. "He thinks it's his." My whole body went cold. Tyler knelt in front of her, put a hand on her stomach, and said, "It doesn't matter. We'll figure it out. Just let me know when you're ready." Ready for what? To leave me? To raise a kid that wasn't mine and pretend it was? I sat there in the driver's seat, shaking, watching the two people I trusted most in the world talk about me like I was some clueless idiot. After a few minutes, he left. She just sat there crying, hands over her face. I wish I could say I felt sorry for her, but all I felt was rage. Hot, bitter, blinding rage. I slammed my fist against the steering wheel so hard I thought I broke it. I didn't go home that morning either. I couldn't. I called in sick, parked my car by the lake, and watched the sunrise. Everything around me looked the same. The water, the skyline, the quiet streets, but nothing felt the same. When I finally did go home later that afternoon, Erin was in the kitchen making pancakes like it was any other Saturday. She smiled, asked if I wanted some. I remember staring at her for a few seconds, trying to reconcile the woman I loved with the one I'd watched on that tiny phone screen. She looked normal, like she hadn't destroyed my life 12 hours earlier. I told her I wasn't hungry. She gave me this concerned look and said, "You've been working too hard, babe. You look exhausted." That almost made me laugh. Exhausted? Yeah, that's one word for it. For the next few days, I acted normal. I still kissed her goodbye when I left for work. I still asked about her doctor appointments. But inside, I was falling apart. I started noticing things I'd ignored before. The sudden phone call she took in the other room, the way she turned her screen away when she texted, the way she flinched when I mentioned Tyler's name. The hardest part was pretending to care about the baby. Every time she talked about names or asked me to feel her belly, I wanted to scream. But I couldn't, because if I let her know I knew, she'd have time to twist it. To make me the bad guy. I needed proof that would hold up beyond a video feed. Proof that would make it undeniable. So, I made an appointment. Not with her, for myself. A paternity test clinic. They could run the test even before birth, using a blood sample from her and me. I told her it was a routine prenatal thing her OB had recommended. She didn't even question it. When the results came in a week later, I sat in the car outside the clinic, envelope in hand, shaking so bad I could barely open it. 2 lines. 2 words. Not the father. I don't remember driving home. I just remember sitting in the driveway for what felt like hours, staring at the nursery window again. The light was on, and that was the moment I decided I wasn't going to confront her yet. Not until I figured out exactly how deep this betrayal went. Not until I knew what kind of person she really was. Because if I was going to walk away from this life, from the home I built, from the child I thought was mine, she was going to know exactly what she took from me first. The paternity test result didn't feel like a piece of paper. It felt like a bomb going off in my chest. I'd suspected. I'd even convinced myself I was ready to hear it. But seeing those words, "not the father," printed in black ink, it gutted me. It wasn't just betrayal. It was like someone had taken a knife to the future I'd been building and cut it clean in half. I didn't go inside right away. I sat in the car until the sun dipped below the houses across the street. Aaron texted me, "You okay? Running late?" And I stared at the message for a long time. My hands hovered over the keyboard, wanting to type something, anything, but I just turned off my phone instead. That night, for the first time since I found out, I walked into the house with a plan. Not a fully formed one, but a plan. Pretend. Gather. Watch. I wasn't going to scream or smash or beg. I was going to know exactly who and what I was dealing with before I made a move. When I opened the door, she was on the couch scrolling through her phone. She smiled like nothing was wrong. "You're late," she said. "Everything okay?" I forced a smile. "Yeah, just traffic." She went back to scrolling. I went to the kitchen, poured myself water, and my eyes landed on a mug. One of those stupid mugs from our honeymoon that said Mr. and Mrs. The Mrs. One was in the sink. Hers. She'd used it that morning. Something about it, the normalcy, made my stomach twist. I started noticing everything after that. Little things. Her sudden bursts of energy after a doctor's appointment. The way she changed clothes when she came back from errands. A faint smell of cologne that wasn't mine on her sweatshirt one night. All of it lined up with the nights Tyler wasn't on shift at his new job. I dug deeper. Checked phone bills. Message logs. I wasn't proud of it, but every discovery was like peeling back layers of rot. She had a separate email she used to talk to him. She'd been sending him sonogram pictures. She called him T in her phone. The kicker? She was telling him she loved him. I read one message that said, "It's only a matter of time. I can't live like this anymore." Another, "He's never home. He won't even notice." That one nearly broke me. I had been out there breaking my back, driving 12-hour nights to support her, to support them, and she framed me as some absent husband she had to sneak around on. I wanted to confront Tyler first. Some primal part of me wanted to drive to his apartment, drag him out, and make him understand what he'd done. But another part of me, the part that had been betrayed but wasn't stupid, knew that wouldn't solve anything. Aaron would spin it, say I'd misunderstood, or that I was violent. And then I'd be the bad guy twice over. So instead, I started quietly moving pieces into place. I opened a separate bank account and transferred small amounts of money into it. Just enough that she wouldn't notice right away. I started keeping a log, dates, times, screenshots of messages, copies of everything. Proof. Not just for me, but for a lawyer. I even recorded a phone call between Aaron and Tyler. I had hidden the cam in the nursery, but this time I hid a voice recorder under the couch in the living room. They talked there one afternoon when I was working. She told him about the test. Well, about what she thought was the test. She said, He still doesn't know. It's like he's in denial. I feel so bad sometimes. He laughed. Don't. He's a good guy, but he's not our problem anymore. Once the baby comes, he'll figure it out. Or not. Either way, we're fine. I sat in my car, gripping the steering wheel, listening to this stranger talk about my life like I was just some obstacle they had to maneuver around. I didn't cry. I didn't yell. I just went very, very quiet inside. The next day, I called a lawyer. I didn't tell her everything, just that I needed advice about paternity, custody, and property. The lawyer was blunt. If the baby wasn't mine, I wasn't legally on the hook for support, but I had to act before signing the birth certificate. If I signed, it would be a nightmare to undo. That gave me a deadline. Erin was about 6.5 months along by then. I had maybe 8 weeks before the birth. 8 weeks to gather everything, get my finances in order, and decide how to leave. And yet, despite all that, I still had moments where I looked at her and almost caved. She'd ask me to feel the baby kick, and my hand would hover over her stomach, and for a second I'd imagine it was mine again. I'd imagine the life we were supposed to have. A little boy playing in the yard, a girl with her smile. Sunday mornings making pancakes. But it wasn't real. It was a ghost of a life that had never existed. One night, she came up behind me while I was doing the dishes and wrapped her arms around my waist. You've been so distant lately, she whispered. Is everything okay? I almost told her right then. I almost spun around and dropped everything. But instead, I just said, just tired. She kissed my back. You're always tired. That night, I couldn't sleep. I sat in the dark living room staring at the nursery door, light off this time, wondering how much of the last 2 years had been a lie. Did she cheat on me before she got pregnant? Did she ever really love me? Or was I just a placeholder until someone like Tyler came along? The rage was still there, simmering under my skin, but now it had a shape, a direction. I wasn't going to blow up and hand her the power to paint me as crazy or abusive. I wasn't going to yell or beg or cry. I was going to leave her the exact way she left me, with silence and a paper trail she couldn't erase. And when I left, I was going to make sure everyone, including Tyler, knew exactly why. Because if she thought I was just going to fade quietly out of the picture, she didn't know me at all. It's funny how, once you decide to leave someone, everything they do starts to look like theater. The way Erin smiled at me across the dinner table, how she texted me pictures of baby clothes, the soft, I love you she whispered before bed. It all felt rehearsed. Like she was playing her part in a show she'd already planned the ending for. I started seeing her differently, not as my wife, but as a stranger who'd invaded my life and rearranged it to fit her lies. I'd lie awake at night, pretending to be asleep while she scrolled through her phone beside me, the screen's glow reflecting in her eyes. Sometimes she'd smile faintly at whatever she was reading, and I knew. It wasn't me she was thinking about. A few nights later, I finally decided it was time to set things in motion. The first step was protecting myself legally. I met with my lawyer again, this time laying everything out, screenshots, recordings, the paternity results. He didn't say much at first, just kept taking notes, flipping through the folder I'd compiled. When he finally looked up, he said quietly, "You've got her cold." We discussed options. He advised me not to confront her until everything was in place. New bank account, alternate mailing address, legal notice ready to file. He even helped me draft a statement for when I walked away. I wasn't divorcing her out of anger. I was doing it to protect myself from deception and financial manipulation. Cold, clinical words for something that was destroying me inside. I started sleeping in my car some nights, just to breathe. I'd park by the lake, recline the seat, and stare at the water until dawn. I told Erin it was for work. Dispatch routes were unpredictable, shifts were long. She believed me, or maybe she didn't care enough to ask. Then came a Saturday morning I'll never forget. Erin's parents came over to help paint the nursery. I hadn't seen them in months. They were good people, simple, kind, the type who always brought homemade pie. I could barely look them in the eye knowing what their daughter had done. At one point, her mom smiled and said, "You're going to be such a great dad, Jack." I almost dropped the paint roller. My throat tightened, and I had to force myself to nod and mumble something about just doing my best. Erin looked at me then, her expression unreadable. Maybe she felt guilty, maybe not, but I saw her hand instinctively rest on her stomach, and I knew the lie was eating her too. That night, when they left, she came into the kitchen while I was cleaning brushes. "You've been so quiet lately," she said softly. "Are you mad at me?" I turned, pretending to think. "No, just tired, like I said." "You're always tired," she murmured again. "You barely talk to me anymore. I feel like you're slipping away." I almost laughed. Slipping away? She'd shoved me off a cliff and was acting like she couldn't figure out why I was falling. Instead, I wiped my hands on a towel and said, "You don't have to worry about that." She looked at me for a moment, searching for something in my face, then said, "You promise?" I smiled faintly. "Yeah, I promise." That promise was a lie, but it bought me time. By mid-April, I had everything lined up. The lawyer had filed the initial divorce paperwork, the accounts were transferred, and I'd found a short-term apartment downtown through a friend. I even moved a few boxes there under the excuse of helping a coworker with storage. All that was left was the confrontation, the one moment I couldn't avoid. I knew I didn't know her a scene. I didn't know her shouting or tears. But I needed to say it to her face, to see what kind of person could look me in the eye after everything she'd done. That moment came sooner than I planned. It was a Thursday, 3 months since that first night I saw the nursery light on. I'd gotten home early, around 2:30 a.m. For once, the house was dark. I was about to head upstairs when I saw a faint glow coming from her phone on the kitchen counter. It was lighting up with notifications. I didn't plan to check it, but when the name Tyler flashed across the screen, I couldn't stop myself. I opened the messages. "Tyler, can't sleep. Just thinking about you." "Aaron, stop, you'll get us caught." "Tyler, you say that, but you love it. Admit it." "Aaron, you're impossible." "Tyler, tell me you love me and I'll stop." "Aaron, you know I do." I don't know why, but that was the moment something inside me snapped completely. Maybe because it wasn't about lies anymore, it was about mockery. She wasn't even trying to hide it. When she came downstairs that morning, I was sitting at the table, the phone in front of me. Her face went pale. "Jack, what are you doing with my phone?" I didn't yell. My voice came out low, calm, too calm. "How long?" "Jack, please." "How long, Aaron?" Tears welled instantly. I didn't mean for any of this to happen. "How long?" I repeated. She sank into the chair across from me, hands shaking. "Since December," she whispered. I nodded slowly. "Before you got pregnant?" Her silence was the answer. I leaned back, staring at her. "So the whole time I was out there killing myself to keep this house, to make sure you had everything, you were sleeping with him. And you didn't even have the decency to tell me the kid wasn't mine." She started crying harder, the kind of crying that might have made me reach out to comfort her once. "Not now. I didn't know how to tell you. I didn't even know for sure whose it was at first, and I panicked." "Don't," I said quietly. "Don't make this about panic. You made choices. You lied. You let me plan a life around a baby that was never mine." "I'm sorry, Jack. Please. I'll fix it. I'll do whatever." "You can't fix it," I said. "It's done." I stood up, grabbed my jacket, and walked toward the door. She followed, sobbing, trying to grab my arm. "Where are you going?" "Somewhere honest," I said. For once. And then I left. No yelling. No broken furniture. No slammed doors. Just silence. The kind that follows when the truth finally finishes burning everything down. I drove straight to the apartment, closed the door behind me, and sat on the floor. My phone buzzed over and over with her messages, but I didn't look. For the first time in months, I felt something close to peace. But deep down, I knew it wasn't over. Because Aaron wasn't the type to let go quietly. And Tyler sure as hell wasn't done pretending he'd won. And I was done being the quiet one. The morning after I left, I expected silence. Maybe a few angry texts. Maybe a half-hearted apology. But what I got was a storm. By 8 a.m., my phone was already blowing up. First from Aaron, hundreds of messages ranging from "please come home" to "you're ruining everything." Then her mom called. Then her sister. She must have told them I'd abandoned her. None of them knew the truth yet. They just knew the version she gave. The one where I was the cold husband who walked out on his pregnant wife in the middle of the night. I ignored every call. My lawyer had already warned me about this part. Let her talk. Don't respond to anything until we file. You'll only make it easier for her to twist your words. By that afternoon, she was at my apartment building. I heard her before I saw her, banging on the door, crying, calling my name. I didn't open it. I just stood there, back against the wall, listening to her voice shake on the other side. "Please, Jack. Please, I made a mistake. Don't throw us away. We can fix this. Fix this." As if this was a leaky pipe or a broken chair. As if it wasn't my entire life she'd detonated. After a while, she stopped banging. I looked through the peephole and saw her sitting on the hallway floor, head in her hands. For a moment, I almost opened the door. Old habits die hard. I'd spent years trying to fix everything for her. But I didn't. Not this time. When she finally left, I sat there staring at the ceiling for a long time. I wasn't crying. I wasn't even angry. I just felt empty, like someone had scooped me out and left only the shell. That night, my lawyer filed the papers officially. Divorce. Termination of paternal claim. Property division. I signed everything. Watching my name hit those lines felt surreal, like watching someone else's life fall apart. 2 days later, her mom showed up at my work. She looked heartbroken, confused. She asked me what happened, why I'd left. I didn't want to drag her into it, but she deserved the truth. I didn't say much, just handed her an envelope. Inside were the paternity results and a copy of one of Aaron and Tyler's messages. She read it there in the parking lot. Her hand went to her mouth, tears streaming down her face. "Oh my God," she whispered. "She told us you'd been distant, that you didn't want the baby." I shook my head. I wanted that baby more than anything. She hugged me. I didn't hug back at first. I didn't know how, but then I did, and for the first time in months, I felt like someone saw me again. Later that evening, I got a call from Erin. I didn't answer, but she left a voicemail. Her voice was raw, shaking. I told my mom. She knows. Everyone knows. Tyler's gone. He left. He said he can't do this. I messed up so bad, Jack. Please, I need you. I can't do this alone. There was a pause, and then, I know you hate me, but you were the only one who ever stayed. Please don't give up on me now. I listened to it twice. Then I deleted it. She didn't need me. Not anymore. She needed consequences. The story spread fast after that. Mutual friends started reaching out, some apologizing, some shocked. Tyler's name got dragged through the mud at his new job. Apparently his boss found out about what happened. A few screenshots made the rounds, not sure how. Word is, he got fired a week later. I didn't have to lift a finger. Karma's quieter than people think. It doesn't scream, it just waits. Erin moved out of our house 2 weeks later. She went to stay with her parents. My lawyer handled the sale, split what needed splitting. She didn't contest the divorce. Maybe she knew she couldn't. Maybe she finally ran out of lies. The last time I saw her was at the courthouse when we signed the final papers. She looked small, like the version of her I used to love had been scraped away and replaced by someone hollow. She tried to talk to me after, asked if I'd ever forgive her. I told her I already had. Not for her sake, for mine. Because holding on to it felt like letting her live rent-free in my head. As I turned to leave, she said something I'll never forget. "It was supposed to be yours, Jack. I wanted it to be yours." I didn't look back when I said, "Wanting doesn't make it true." And that was it. It's been 3 months since then. I'm back working full-time, different company, better pay. I still drive sometimes at night, just for the quiet. Sometimes I pass our old house. The nursery window is dark now. No light, no shadows. Just stillness. People keep telling me I'll find someone else. Maybe I will, maybe I won't. Right now, I'm just learning how to be okay by myself. How to wake up without checking my phone. How to breathe without waiting for the next lie to drop. Sometimes, though, when I see a dad holding a newborn at the park or hear a woman laughing in the grocery store, I feel that ache again. That phantom version of the life I was supposed to have. But I remind myself, that life wasn't real. It was built on someone else's lies. I used to think losing Erin was the worst thing that could happen to me. Now I know staying would have been worse. Because the moment I walked away, I didn't just lose a marriage. I got something back I hadn't realized she'd taken, my peace. And I'm not giving that up again. If you made it all the way to the end, thanks for sticking with me. I really appreciate it. If you enjoyed the story, consider subscribing to the channel and giving the video a like. It helps me share more stories like this. Thanks.